member of the Committee on Energy and Commerce or their respective designees. The gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Pallone, and the gentlewoman from Washington, Mrs. Rogers, each will control 30 minutes. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Pallone.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend the remarks and add extraneous material on H.R. 7688, the Consumer Fuel Price Gouging Prevention Act.
Without objection.
Madam Speaker, today the House is taking action to protect consumers at the gas pump. This legislation is necessary right now because big oil companies are ripping off the American people. At a time when Americans are paying record-high prices for gas, big oil is taking advantage of the instability caused by Russia's unjust war in Ukraine and our ongoing economic recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic to rake in record profits. The largest 4 big oil companies collectively made $27 billion in profits during the first quarter of this year. And some of these were record highs, others were the highest profits in over a decade. One CEO was so giddy about these profits, Madam Speaker, that he said his company was, and I quote, a cash machine. These companies are indeed cash machines. Last month, the Energy and Commerce Committee held a hearing with the leaders of the 6 big oil companies, and during that hearing and questioning from me, all 6 big oil CEOs refused to scale down stock buybacks, making it abundantly clear that their sole interest is their profits, even when it comes at the expense of the American people. Instead of a traditional supply and demand economic model where we'd expect to see these companies ramping up production to meet rising demand, they are instead using their profits to buy back their own stock to further pad the pockets of their executives and shareholders. Now, if oil companies want to produce right now, nothing is standing in their way. The oil and gas industry has more than 9,000 approved but unused drilling permits that could be used for production today. Instead, big oil companies are more interested in funneling billions to their shareholders and executives than in addressing record-high gas prices. They are gouging consumers, and they are manipulating the market by deliberately keeping production low, which keeps both prices and their profits high. Now, you don't have to take my word for it. Oil and gas executives themselves admitted as much. In a recent survey, 60% of executives cited investor pressure to maintain capital discipline as the primary reason they are not increasing production. And only 6%, and I want to stress this, only 6% said government regulations are impeding oil production. Madam Speaker, the profiteering must end. And that's why the House must pass the Consumer Fuel Price Gouging Prevention Act. This legislation will put an end to price gouging, penalize market manipulators, and bring more transparency to the secretive oil and gas market. It's a monopoly. And I want to thank you, Madam Speaker, and also Representative Schreier, Dr. Schreier, for their leadership on this important legislation. You were the 2 that have sponsored this bill. And the bill grants the President the power to declare an energy emergency proclamation and makes it illegal to sell consumer fuels at an excessive and exploitative price during an energy emergency. The Federal Trade Commission would then be empowered to go after fuel wholesalers and retailers, both wholesalers and retailers, for price gouging. It also empowers state attorney generals, including the U.S. territories and the District of Columbia, to enforce against price gouging at the retail level. Now, this legislation bolsters FTC's ability to crack down on fuel market manipulation and doubles the maximum penalty for manipulating wholesale oil markets to up to $2 million a day for each violation. It also includes provisions that would improve market transparency and competition, which is so important since a large portion of the oil and gas pricing is done in the dark. We need to shed light on how these prices are reached so that we can hold these companies accountable. Madam Speaker, let me just say, it is time we stop big oil from ripping off the American people. Let's help lower gas prices at the pump by passing the Consumer Fuel Price Gouging Prevention Act today. And with that, I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves. The gentlewoman from Washington, Mrs. Rogers.